Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate that. We know how busy your lives are, and we're hoping to make this a great night for you to get some great information for your student and for yourself. We'd like to start off by doing some introductions. My name is Sarah Graham. I'm the newest member of the Del Oro Counseling Team. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. This is an amazing group of people, and your kids are really lucky to have them. So my alphabet, the last names beginning L through R-I are the students that I work with. We have Terry Barker over here in the dark. Alphabets A through D, Blaine White. Last names E through K. Ellie Montgomery. Last names R-J through Z. Betsy Fessenden is our college and career counseling tech. Donna Silva is our counseling secretary. She's not here tonight, but she's the glue that holds us all together, so we want to mention her. And Stacy LaChance is our Sierra College transition counselor. Thank you, friends. Our evening overview, our goal of the evening really is to decrease stress and increase knowledge. This is a really overwhelming process. We are very aware of that, and we're going to just give you a boatload of information tonight. We really hope that it helps you. You may leave feeling overwhelmed, which is ironic because we're trying to decrease your stress, and we apologize for that. But we also are going to give you a lot of information and a lot of links that you should be able to go back home and check out and feel like you have some really great resources to get more information. So we have a handout. Hopefully all of you have it. And on the front side are some really, really important dates. If you hold on to anything, hold on to this. We told all your students to put this on your fridge, somewhere else, show it to you, so hopefully you've seen it before. Coming home with your seniors, we've been going into all the senior classes and talking to them for the last few weeks, so they've seen this as well. So good information on both sides of this handout. This is the evening overview, so we're going to go over all of these topics. At the bottom here, we noted that there's going to be a Q&A session at the very end, so if you could please hold your questions to the very end. Number one, I can't see any of you right now anyway, so we couldn't answer your questions, but we're going to have this entire presentation, including all the linked information, is going to be available on our counseling website, and we're also having this recorded so that whole live, or it won't be live at the point, but this whole video will be available to you as well. And you can share that with anybody who wasn't able to be here tonight. So if you have this, I don't know if you guys can see it, it's kind of dark in here, I hadn't planned for that. This is called the Senior Year Overview, and the reason I want to highlight it for you is that we're really hoping that you can see that every stage of this senior year is broken into kind of a season. Right now, you are exactly where you need to be. You're here tonight, you're getting information, your students got information from us, they're hopefully using the California Colleges resource that we gave them to build their college list, and you're really just kind of doing that first exploration for checking out colleges and building a college list. Not everything needs to be done today. So remember that. We're step by step by step. So you'll see that this senior year overview is broken into fall, and then into winter, and into spring. So each stage of this process has a season. So now I would like to introduce Miss Betsy Fessenden.
All right. Okay, good. Thank you so much. So at this time of year, the counseling team is presenting grade level guidance in one of your child's classes. So we start with the seniors and then the juniors, sophomores, and end with the freshmen in January. But regardless of level, we're encouraging students to identify and develop their interests so that they can match careers to those interests and then find related majors and ultimately colleges and programs that offer them. We have a counseling website that has so much information on it, and I encourage you to check it out on a regular basis. It has many great resources and a calendar of events that we offer. So in the career area, we offer links to great sites. These are just a few that are up here that offer interest in inventories, career searches, major searches, and college matches. California Colleges is what we've been highlighting with our seniors, and if you go in there, it's the name, the title is a little misleading because it's not just California Colleges. It's great resources. It has an interest inventory. You can do a career search, a major search, and then it will match colleges that fit that major. But it will also give you detail on that college in that And we'll give you acceptance rate, average SAT, average test scores, and so on. So it's an incredible resource that I could spend the hour talking about. But we want you to check that out, and we're offering that to students to check out it as well. Interest profilers, Big Future as well, are great ones that start with interest and then get to the college piece. In the spring, we have career visits from professionals in and around the community in a variety of industries, and they come and they speak in the classrooms. They also, related to their profession, and then also the College and Career Center too. So I look out at you all and I see students and parents, but I also see valuable resources. So if this sounds like it's something that you would be interested in, you're passionate about your career, your job, and you might want to share that with students, we would love for you to be part of that in the spring. And so if you could reach out to me and let me know, I would appreciate it so much. I would then contact you and we could get that going. So then next, talking a little bit about the college piece, many college tools available and events. So senior level guidance is what we're doing with seniors, and then if you're a junior parent, we'll be working with the juniors as well. But what's coming up is a college night that is taking place at Rockland High School. It's a regional college night. 9 high schools come together to plan this every year. Last year, we were at Del Oro, and this year we're at Rockland. And it's a week from tonight there. We have the college fair that starts at 6 o'clock there, and that's in the gym. And it's the setup with the tables. The admissions reps are there, and you'd have opportunity to walk around and talk with them, ask them questions, and have that one-on-one time. And then also there are breakout sessions that start at 5:15. These are smaller settings, and in these different areas. A representative from a California college will talk about that process. California State University, University of California, there'll be an out-of-state rep, a private college presentation, financial aid, and NCAA. Now, I want to say it now, and I'll say it again, too. These times and places that I'm going to show you on the next slide are subject to change, and so that week, when this comes up, I want you to just check back with on our counseling webpage for that detailed information. They're moving some things around a little bit, but basically 5:15 to 7:15 at Rockland next week. And so please come and access those resources that are right here for you. Also, too, there will be a FAFSA and DREAM Act workshop that will be hosted by Placer High School October 16th from 6 to 7:30, and there'll be more information to come on that as well. Keep in mind, Sierra College also offers these all throughout the fall, so you could check them out as well. Then the rep visits. I'm planning and hosting college reps, admission representatives that are coming. They speak in the College and Career Center during lunchtime, about a half-an-hour presentation on the universities, and students get to interact with that person, ask questions, and between September and November, we're going to have 45 different colleges on campus. So just make sure that you are checking the counseling webpage, and then also we want to make sure that you are on Remind. Now, our counseling team has a Remind text where I push notifications about the things that we talked about today, and then also jobs, internships, workshops, testing dates like the ASVAB that's coming up soon, and other kinds of reminders. So what it is texting at Del Oro HS to the number 81010, and that's also on our webpage as well. Lastly, I wanted to just show you college night flyer that hopefully you picked up when you came in. Breakout session places subject to change, and then on the back, really tiny here, is just a list of some of the schools that are going to be here, and we have about 80 right now that are confirmed. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, one thing to mention also, I did say that this presentation will be on our website, but one thing to note is that pretty much anything that's colored and underlined is a link, and you can click on that link and go get more information on that. So Betsy had some of those, and I had some of those on my other slide as well. So we're going to talk about the SAT and ACT right now. So why take the SAT or ACT? If you plan to apply to a four-year college out of high school, you need to, and that's why you're going to take that. Do colleges prefer one test test over the other. The SAT and ACT are pretty much treated the same by the purposes of college admissions. Neither test is considered better than the other. So then, how do you choose which test to take? It's really about you and which test you prefer. We recommend that you take both in the spring of your 11th grade year. Whichever test you do better on, that's the test for you. So right over here, there's two red links, that SAT versus ACT. If you click on that, it's a beautiful side-by-side comparison of both tests. Gives you a lot of good information about what the pros and the cons of both tests, and you can kind of find out which one's better for you. Next to that is a quiz that you can actually take. It's 11 questions, and it just asks you a lot of questions about your learning style, how you learn best, and that's another way to find out which one might be best for you. So the major differences between the SAT and ACT: the ACT has a science reasoning section. The SAT does not allow a calculator on some math questions, while the ACT allows a calculator on all math questions. And then again, the scores. The SAT is scored from 400 to 1600, and the ACT from 1 to 36. Subject tests. Although subject tests are not usually required for most colleges, many of the selective campuses recommend freshman applicants take them to show proficiency in subject areas and as an additional way to highlight areas of strength. So another one of these links, this is a great resource for you if you're thinking about applying to a UC. I think when I looked yesterday, 6 of the UCs did have subject test recommendations. 3 of them did not. So it's good to take a look at that and see which subject tests they're recommending. So for example, UC Santa Barbara College of Engineering recommends Math Level 2. So you'll see things like that when you click on that link. Preparing for the SAT and ACT, I know we have some junior parents in the audience tonight, so this is probably a great resource for you as well. Another live link as to test prep options to get ready for the SAT and ACT. Super scoring. When a college takes the best section score from multiple test sittings, creating a new composite score. So for example, you see up here, at the first sitting, the student scored 500 on the reading and 650 on the math, giving a total of 1150. They took the test again, second time, 560 on the reading and 620 on the math. So what super scoring means is you take the best of both of those. So you take the new composite score would be 1210 for 560 and 650 together. So the math score was higher on the first sitting and the reading score was higher on the second sitting, which gives you a better score. So colleges that super score, this is yet another link for you, and it'll show you a great list of colleges that super score. All of the CSUs will do this for you. Sending official scores, you get 4 free score reports for each test when you take it. So it's important to list those colleges because each test is anywhere between $12 and $13. So you're saving about $50 in the process when you use the free score reports. So it's really worth it for you to do that. It isn't cheap to apply to all these colleges. And then finally, the final dates for this. So if you're a senior, you still have 2 more testing dates to take if you need to take the SAT or ACT. November 3rd and December 1st are your SAT dates. October 27th and December 8th are your ACT dates. And then I'd like to invite Stacy LaChance up here to talk to us about California Community Colleges.
So I'm actually going to talk mostly about Sierra College Promise and First Year Free. But all of this information that's on here is something that I would discuss with a student that comes in and sees me. So the Sierra College Promise started last spring, and I started working with the seniors, transitioning to Sierra College to kind of have a smoother start. Because a lot of times, if you've heard in the past, it's really, for some reason, a very lengthy and sometimes difficult process for the students. And I think for some of them that aren't maybe as motivated or aren't sure how to navigate it, they kind of gave up. And so to help students get through, in a smoother way, but also faster through the college and continue on to whatever goal that they have, Sierra has partnered with districts around the county. And so our district is one of the districts they've partnered with, and it was really great last year. The students left feeling very very good about it. They were very happy that they had a plan. They kind of knew what they were doing. I had a few over the summer still emailing me some questions, but overall it was a great experience. So we're continuing that this year. And I will be on campus here working with the students. So I'm here a select number of hours a week, and the students can come see me. I've also gone into, or the counselors have talked to in senior guidance, the students about it, and we had them sign up, so I have a list of any students interested in going to Sierra. So that's just kind of a little overview for you. But Sierra College Promise, what that does is it gives them access to Sierra College staff here on campus, as well as me at the transition counselor. So we help them from the very beginning, from the application all the way to registering for classes. And can you hear me? Oh, sorry. So that's one of the benefits of it. So our commitment from Sierra is that we're going to help them with the resources, help them with the process, give them priority registration. That is so big. They get to register early before returning students. So it's really important that they choose to be a Promise student, and the only requirement is that they are a full-time student. So taking a total of 30 units or more, if they choose to, from between summer, fall, and spring. So that's the calendar year for Sierra Promise, as well as when I quickly talk about first year free. And so, as long as they take the full time and they choose, yes, to be a Promise Scholar, they'll work with me, get through that process this year, and then get that early registration. As well as there's some activities that they will be able to be a part of, and can also get some book vouchers too if they go to those type of events. So Sierra Promise is in kind of conjunction with First Year Free, although they are separate entities, but First Year Free is Sierra College's California Promise. So you might have heard that a lot in the news. That started this year. So all of the seniors that went to Sierra College that graduated last year that qualified for it are getting their first year free. So it's really great because it offers a great opportunity for these students to get 30 plus units paid for. So first year free covers tuition only. There are going to be some school fees that they have to pay, but it's pretty minimal. I believe it's less than $60 a semester. And so the qualification for that is that they take a minimum of 12 units, because 12 units still is considered full-time, but we are always going to recommend and encourage students to take that 15 plus or 30 total. 30 total is really the key number for the year, and then complete the FAFSA or DREAM Act application. And so as long as they complete that, there is no income requirement needed. As long as they are doing both those steps, they will receive first year free. So it's a really, really great opportunity. I really encourage you to talk to your students and say, hey, have you seen Mrs. LaChance? Have you gone to talk to her in the College and Career Center? If they have not, I'm here to help them out and throughout that whole process. It is a little different because when they meet with me, I'm not there as a high school counselor anymore, and so there is some confidentiality to that. So if you were to contact me and say, hey, my son talked to you, can you tell me what you talked about? I am not able to do that, but if you talk to your child and you want to be a part of it and they allow it, then we definitely can have you be a part of that conversation. So I think that's pretty much it. Applications open up for the summer and fall, October 1st. So starting October 2nd, I will be working with those students doing application workshops during school, and then setting up appointments to do the counseling appointment, where I will do a full year academic plan with them. So coming up with all of those, hopefully 30 plus units worth of classes for them, so that they know what to register when we have that registration date. And then if you're a midterm grad, I will be working with midterm grads earlier, obviously, because I have a lot that are interested in starting in the spring. And so we will be having a meeting next Tuesday. So if you have any midterm grads that aren't here, or that you're here to talk or here to get information about, I will be meeting with anybody interested in going to Sierra, and we will start doing their application and getting them ready before November 9th, because that's the priority registration for our Promise students for this spring. So I think that's it. But I'm available. You can always find my email. All this information and more, and more is on the website. And so you can contact me with any generic question. I'd be happy to help you out.
My name is Blaine White, and it's truly a privilege to have you all here tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your busy lives to attend. I'm going to focus on four-year colleges, and there's probably 3 hours of information minimum that I'm going to try to put into about 10 minutes. But again, we hope you'll come back to this presentation online, use some of those links, and and feel free to ask us questions or have your student come in. Even better to have your student come in and ask those questions as well, so they can be learning about the process. I do want to thank Stacy LaChance. We're so lucky to have Stacy now as our dedicated Sierra College liaison counselor. She was also a counselor here for Del Oro for many years. So to have that connection is great, because as complex as you're going to see the four-year college application process is, we'd like to think that applying to community college is extremely easy, but there are a lot of steps to it. And now to have Stacy step those students through the process is extremely valuable. Keep in mind, though, as much as we're partial to Sierra College, because they're our local college, community college, and they do a great job at educating our students, there are over 100 community colleges throughout California, and they're all participating in that California Promise, or that first year free, as Sierra College mentions, or as they call it. So keep that in mind. For some of your students, community college may be their backup plan, and for other students, it's their primary plan, potentially as a stepping stone to later transfer into a four-year university. I'm going to kind of put this into sections, and what I'd like to start with are the UC and CSU campuses. Those would be our state college system within California. The UCs, there are 9 undergraduate campuses, with the closest being UC Davis. Within the CSU, there are 23 campuses throughout California, the closest being Sac State. A through G requirements is something that your students have heard year after year at Del Oro. Our goal is to have all students graduate from Del Oro not only just meeting the minimum graduation requirements, but also meeting those A through G requirements. A through G is not required to go to community college, although it's extremely useful. So even a student, because you may hear this from your senior this year, do I really have to take Integrated Math 3 because I'm going to go to Sierra College? Sierra College will still admit you without that class, but having it under your belt will help you save time, money, and place directly into college-level math. So we really encourage all of our students to meet those A through G requirements. A through G really just refers to different categories of classes. Classes that students need to go above and beyond to meet the A through G requirements include that Integrated Math 3, going beyond their biology, advanced biology, or AP Bio by going into chemistry, AP Chemistry, or Earth Science. I do want to mention Earth Science limits them to CSU campuses. To open up to UC campuses, the student would need either chemistry or ag chemistry. When we're talking about out-of-state or private schools, it can really vary. The CSUs, the other A through G that I wanted to mention would also be earning C's or better, C minimum grades throughout senior year, so we'll talk about that tonight as well. Sustaining that academic rigor throughout senior year and not letting those grades slip is important to the process, especially for four-year colleges. Other A through G classes, visual and performing arts, some of your seniors might be completing that this year. It might be an art class, it might be dance, choir, music, even video production counts in that category, or graphic design. So, minimum GPAs. To be eligible to apply to the CSU, the minimum GPA is a 2.0. For some students, that's surprising because they think it's much more competitive to get into a CSU. Now, if we're talking about the most competitive CSUs, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo is at the top of that heap. A minimum 2.0 will not likely get you admitted to that school. San Diego State, very popular beach location, their average GPA is much above a 2.0. However, within the 23 campuses, there are campuses that will admit a student with just barely above a 2.0 as long as their test scores are strong enough. UC's a little bit more selective in the sense that the minimum GPA is a 3.0. A 3.0 or just above that might get you into a UC Merced, might get you into UC Santa Cruz or UC Riverside. Certainly probably would not be a strong enough GPA, although there are exceptions, to get into your most selective UCs such as Berkeley or UCLA or UC San Diego, for example. But it's important to know where those minimums are. CSU uses what we call an eligibility index. It's really just a numerical value. We give you a link to learn a little bit more about that or to calculate your student's eligibility index. But they basically take the GPA, they use a factor with that, add in those test scores, SAT or ACT, and they come up with a number. The schools rank their applicants in order. They figure out how many spots they're going to offer. They draw a line, and if you're above that line, you're in. If you're below that numeric line, you're not getting an offer to attend. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about eligibility index. Unfortunately, CSUs don't take in additional information. You don't get to report your honors, awards, activities, sports, offices held. Whereas the UCs do what we call a comprehensive or holistic review. They're going to take all of that additional information into account in addition to your GPA and test scores. NCAA, I just want to mention, if your student is looking to be competitive in athletics in college, especially at the Division I or II levels, the only way they can be recruited by colleges and eventually offered athletic scholarships would be if they register through the NCAA Eligibility Center. So that's something that if your student is hoping for that, even if they're a junior, it's not too early to get registered through that Eligibility Center. On the left, I also want to point out, Sac State Apply is their own website. You can apply to one or all 23 CSUs through that portal. The link below that is the UC admissions portal, and you can apply to one or all 9 UCs through that portal. CSU applications open on October 1st, and so you can't actually begin the CSU applications until October 1st. But the great news is, once they open on October 1st, your student can submit as early as October 1st. They close, the last day to submit is November 30th, and the next day they're closed. We warn seniors again and again, don't wait till that last night. Don't be submitting at 11:59 on November 30th, because that's the most likely time servers are going to go down, because everybody's panicking at the last moment. So do it well ahead of time. UC applications are a little bit different. They are open now, so your student could start that application tonight. They just can't push submit until November 1st. That's the first day of submission, and again, the last date is November 30th. Going back to ACT and SAT for a moment, if your student's planning on taking those again, or maybe for the first time coming up, if they're planning to apply to a UC campus, they must take that optional essay or writing section. Okay, that is a required component. If they're only applying to CSUs, that section is not required. When we're talking about out-of-state or private schools, it really depends on the school whether or not they use that score. There are no essays in the CSU application, so from that sense, it's quite an easy application for your student to complete. However, I will tell you, historically, the CSU application has been tricky, too technically tricky, in our opinion. So we do ask all students before they push that submit button to please come see their counselor, bring their Chromebook. We'll look the application over with them before they push submit. The UC campuses do require what they call personal insight questions. Students have 8 questions to choose from. They'll be responding to 4 of those with a maximum of 350 words per response. So that takes some time and thinking. You don't want to be doing that on the last night. Other campuses that we'll talk about in a moment may require, other systems, private and out-of-state schools may require essays as well. No letters of recommendation for UCs or CSUs. They're not asked for, nor are they accepted if a student just wanted to kind of send them in on the side. The only exception is some select UCs in about the January timeframe may invite a student who's applied during November to submit additional information, which could include letters of recommendation, but only if you're invited to do so, and that's a pretty rare situation. We are linking, and I'm going to show this on a couple of our slides, college application tips. It's technical, it's a little bit tricky, but it's worth printing out at home, especially for CSU applications and even for UCs, to make sure you're reporting the courses and grades appropriately. I want to talk for a second about independent and out-of-state schools. There's over 4,000 accredited universities throughout the United States, and more of our students are looking outside of California, because many campuses, many universities outside of California don't even know what the word impacted means. In California, we're all about there aren't enough spaces to serve all the students who want this school or want this major, so it's very competitive to get in. The minute you step outside of California, a lot of schools say, hey, if you meet our minimum requirements, you will get into our school and you'll get into your preferred major. And some of them even offer a 4-year guarantee of graduating within 4 years, as long as you stay on track, take a minimum number of credits, and don't change your major 3 times. So more and more of our students are looking out of state. A great application that handles over 800 of those out of state and private schools is called Common App. Student can set up a free portal online. I do want to point out that any Common App school will require that at least the counselor submit a letter of recommendation on the student's behalf, and most schools require 2 teacher recommendations in addition. So your students really got to think ahead. Can't be on the last night. We're asking that they give teachers and counselors a minimum of 3 weeks notice about any deadline coming up if it requires a letter of recommendation. We have linked here our Delaware Letter of Rec packet. It's a pretty extensive printout for students at home to work on. It's like a job application, but we really want to know everything about a student before we write that letter of rec. We see them from one perspective in the counseling office. We see their grades, their GPA, their test scores, but we don't necessarily know a lot more about them, what passions they have, what majors they're intending to follow, what sports they might be involved in, community service, church service. All of those things are relevant and help us write the best letter of recommendation possible. We ask students fill that out, make a photocopy of it, give one to their counselor and one to each teacher they're seeking letters of rec from at least 3 weeks in advance. I want to point out that more and more schools are using early action and early decision to admit students. Some of the most selective schools out there are really filling about up to a third or even a little bit more of their freshman class all through early action and early decision. And what that basically means is students apply early, sometimes as early as November 1st could be the deadline, so it's time to be looking at those possibilities. They'll hear back from the university early, usually in the December timeframe, and they'll have an answer. If it's a good one, your student can sit back and say, hey, I have one in my pocket. I know I'm into one university. If it's early action, the student doesn't need to do anything different. They'll just know back early. They applied early. They'll know back early from the campus the decision. They can still keep all of their other applications in and wait till the final decision in spring when they get financial aid offers and make a final decision by May 1st. Early action allows that. Early decision is binding, meaning once the school says you're in, you are promising to accept that offer and to pull all your other applications out of other colleges. So you can't wait and see what happens with the other applications and compare financial aid offers if you choose early decision. Submission deadlines vary for private and out-of-state schools. We all know about November 30th now for UCs and CSUs. When we're talking about out-of-state schools, some of them are January 1st, January 5th, January 15th, mid-February. Some even extend out into March. But some schools also have some special deadlines. One that comes to mind is USC. They want you applying by, I believe it was December 15th last year, if you want to be considered for scholarship monies, okay? But they'll take your application after that. You just won't be considered for scholarships. So very important to be looking into that. And those deadlines can all be found on the school's website or by using California colleges to look up different universities and their statistics. We've talked about the personal essay that's required for UCs. The Common App also has a personal essay that students will be completing. In addition, many selective colleges have additional, besides your main essay that you write in the Common App, some supplementary questions or short answers to submit that are college specific. We're going to talk about financial aid tonight, but I do want to mention, in addition to the FAFSA that most of you have heard about, some selective colleges out there, Santa Clara comes to mind, also have you, they request that you submit the CSS financial aid profile. That can be found at the College Board website. There's a small fee that you pay, and it's giving them additional financial information about the family. Demonstrated interest. Some colleges are looking at that. UCs and CSUs not so much, but when we're talking about some private and out-of-state schools, they're collecting data on your students. Did they come and listen to a rep present? Did they go to the college fair and talk to a representative? Did they take an official tour on the campus and visit the campus? Did they perhaps follow up with a phone call or an email to the school? Did they like the school on Facebook, follow them on Twitter? Those are all demonstrated interest points that can actually make your student more likely to get a letter of acceptance from that school because they've shown interest in the school. We remind our seniors, beware of their social media presence. We're hearing from more and more admissions officers who are saying, yes, I click quickly to take a look at, do they have an Instagram account or a Facebook page to see what they have posted on that, what kind of student might they be when they arrive on our campus. And again, it's the same college application tips link to emphasize the fact that we want all of our students coming to one of our workshops that I'll tell you about, but also making sure a counselor double checks their application before submission. Building a college list, daunting task with over 4,000 colleges. We want students applying broadly, thinking of these big buckets. Which schools might be my safety schools that I know I'll get into with my GPA and test scores? That could be a local community college like Sierra. Sac State might be a safe school for some of our students who have a strong GPA. Sac State gives priority to our local area residents, so that could be a good safety school. Target would be a school where your GPA and test scores pretty much line up. okay? You're right in there in the game. There's room for improvement. You're not going to be guaranteed a spot, but you're in the running, and your test scores look strong given the school's average test scores. A reach school would be, gosh, I'm quite a bit below the average GPA that's admitted. My test scores are a little bit low. I'm going to take it one more time, see if I can improve those. And perhaps the school also just admits a really small percentage of students. The minute we're looking at a school that admits fewer than 20% of their applicants, 20% sounds like a decent number, but it's getting pretty darn selective. So even sometimes students with strong GPAs get turned away from those schools, while a student with a little bit lower GPA who stands out in another area in their application might get that acceptance letter. Little harder to predict those reach schools. Most students are applying to between 6 to 8 schools. You can do more than that, but some of our students who are applying to 12, 15, 18 schools, it's too cumbersome, it's extremely expensive, and in the end they get multiple offers and still have to make that very difficult decision about where do I ultimately want to attend. Tools that are helpful that Ms. Fessenden mentioned, California Colleges, Big Future, and CapEx. And I'm just going to show you really quickly what it looks like. So here is a snapshot on Big Future of Sac State. SAT and average SAT scores are in the black band on the right. The middle 50% who are admitted fall in those score range, so a student can compare where they might fall. And you'll notice that in the middle to the left, somewhat selective. 68% of applicants admitted to Sac State. Pretty good percentage, healthy percentage. There are scattergrams out there. I used CapEx. This student, for example, has a GPA somewhere around a 3.25 maybe, which is the horizontal line, and the vertical line, they scored about a 1050 or so on the SAT, so their point is right in the middle at the star. The green dots are students who were accepted to that school with the same GPA and test scores. You can see a lot of green around this student's point. Pretty good chance of that student getting accepted. The red dots are students who were denied admission. Let's compare that to San Diego State. We can see average test scores are creeping up over to the right. They are more selective. I don't have all my notes up here, I apologize. They accept a fewer overall percentage of students. 35, thank you. And let's look at that scattergram again. Same student at the star in the middle, still got some green around them, but the reds are creeping in. So that might not be a safe school. It might be a target school or maybe even a reach, because we know the popularity of San Diego State, that beach location, is a tough one. Here's Claremont McKenna. You can see test scores are way over to the right, very strong scores, very small percentage of students selected to attend, so you know they're turning away very qualified students. And here's that same student. There really isn't a green dot near them, so that would definitely be a reach school for this student. We just wanted you to visually see how that can help a student put together their college list. All right. Majors don't usually impact too much the decision about getting in when we're talking about UCs, but a few exceptions are School of Engineering, Nursing, Business Administration, some art programs that require a portfolio. And we do have a link at the bottom for CSU, so you can actually check and see which majors and which campuses within the CSU are impacted. I mentioned we have college application workshops where students can come on campus. It starts during fifth block, so if you have a senior without a fifth block or an easy fifth block that they could miss, we'll be in the room 201, which is in the library building. They bring their Chromebooks, they can work on their applications there, and we're circulating to help answer questions. We can review their app before they submit. We have 4 dates that are already planned out. We will be there during fifth block and after school for at least an hour to help your students out. Sending official SAT and ACT scores, we do remind your students that they need to send in those official scores by logging back into their SAT or ACT websites, and only coming into the counseling office to request that an official transcript be sent when they're asked to. Many schools don't need an official transcript until the very end of the school year. Okay, but they see Mrs. Silva in the counseling office with a pre-addressed envelope with a stamp, and we'll send out a transcript when and if that is needed. Next up is paying for college. I'm happy to introduce Ellie Montgomery.
Thank you, Blaine. Hi, everybody. We know that one of the biggest stressors about this whole process for students and families is how are we going to pay for it? When you look at the sticker price of colleges and you see $25,000 to $65,000 per year, it can be pretty scary. You need to know that just like most people don't pay full sticker price for a car when they buy one, most people don't pay full sticker price for college either. I'm going to give you an overview of the process. And your student will be applying for both colleges and for financial aid this fall, but they won't find out the eventual the eventual cost that they will pay for that college until the spring when they get all their financial aid offers. And so it's kind of a waiting game till you know exactly how much each one of those colleges is going to cost. So the financial aid big picture, it starts out with the FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid. And I say free because there are some websites that try to get you to pay money to process your FAFSA. The FAFSA should always be free, and we encourage you to use our links that are on the senior checklist that you have and on this site, on our counseling site, to process your FAFSA. Once the FAFSA is processed, your EFC is generated. That's your expected family contribution to your student's educational cost. That EFC is used to determine if your student qualifies for federal aid, like Pell Grant. Next, it is sent to the state level for consideration for state aid, like Cal Grant. And then the EFC is sent to each of the colleges that your student enters in on their FAFSA. They can enter up to 10 schools. The colleges then may offer scholarships based on need or on merit. These merit scholarships are earned with a strong GPA or test scores. Oftentimes, students are only considered for merit scholarships if they have first completed a FAFSA. Some elite private colleges require a supplemental financial aid application that Mr. White mentioned called the CSS Profile. And this is run through College Board, and there is a fee for that. So federal student aid. The amount you qualify for depends on your family's financial need. An expected family contribution is determined by the information on the FAFSA, such as the student's and the parent's income, how many people are in the household, and how many of those people attend college. The EFC stays the same no matter how many colleges you apply for. The cost of attendance is a thing that changes. So the cost of attendance is different at each college. It's based on tuition, fees, books, supplies, room and board. So your financial need is your cost of attendance, which is different at each college, minus your expected family contribution, or EFC, and that gives you your financial need. So more federal student aid. The biggest piece of federal student aid is the Pell Grant, and that is free money. It's up to $6,095, and the student qualifies for Pell Grants based on financial need. Federal work study is another form of federal student aid, and that is when a student qualifies to work at an on-campus job that only students with work study can apply for. By the way, students working is part of every financial aid package. There is an expectation that the student will work part-time during school to help pay for their educational costs. And subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Subsidized loans have a reduced interest rate and have more flexible repayment options than unsubsidized and private loans. California state aid. So there's more free money available as it comes from the federal level and then down to the state level. And the biggest way you can get state aid is through Cal Grant. And that is free money for income-eligible students who have a minimum of a 3.0 GPA for a Cal Grant A or a 2.0 GPA for a Cal Grant B. Income ceilings vary, so the amount you make can indicate which awards you qualify for. But just as an example, for Cal Grant B, the income ceiling is $53,900. And for Cal Grant A, for a family of 4, the income ceiling is $102,500. If you make above that amount of money, you can still qualify for the middle class scholarship. This is something new that started a few years ago for the CSUs and the UCs. And if you make an income less than $171,000, you can still qualify for a middle class scholarship. And the maximum award is $5,052 for UCs and $2,298 for CSUs. If you're planning on going to a UC and your family makes less than $80,000, It's fantastic because there's a blue and gold opportunity plan and there's no tuition and fees charged. So you get 100% free tuition and fees at a UC if your family makes less than $80,000. So the Western Undergraduate Exchange, the WUE. The Western Undergraduate Exchange is a program that provides reduced tuition costs for California students at many out-of-state colleges within the 16-state Western region. Each college handles WUE a little differently. At Southern Oregon University, for example, California students who are admitted automatically qualify for the WUE, and it saves them $12,000 a year. At UNR, which is very popular with our students, it can save you $11,000 a year, but students need a minimum GPA of 3.25, an ACT of 26, or an SAT of 1240 to qualify. And it's also not available to every major. So it's a fantastic way to help to offset the cost of out-of-state tuition, but it's only available at certain schools, and the link right there, the yellow WUE link, can show which schools offer it and which majors they include. So the FAFSA is the online way to apply for federal student aid for all of these student aid programs that I've been talking about. It's now online, and so that makes it a lot easier. There's a lot more sophisticated skip logic and online edits. There's a lot of online help. If you did the FAFSA years ago, it's a lot easier now that it's online, and it takes between, I would say, 30 and 45 minutes to complete. The key is to have your tax return right next to you. It's going to be this year, you'll be using your 2017 tax return, have a copy of it right next to you, and you actually just transfer data from your tax return over to the FAFSA as you're filling it out online. The best thing to do is to use the IRS retrieval tool that's available, and that actually downloads your information for you. And what's really good about that is when you go that route, then the schools assume that information has already been verified by the IRS, and so they fast track your information for processing for financial aid and scholarship awards. So the FAFSA is available October 1st, and we really encourage you to take advantage of that moved up timeline because it gives schools more chance to process your information to get your financial aid awards out earlier. As soon as you complete the FAFSA online, a confirmation page will come up, and make sure you keep track of that. Take a picture of it or write it down, your confirmation information, so that you can refer back to it. The first step to do your FAFSA, actually before you do your FAFSA, you have to sign up for a FSA ID. This used to be called your federal PIN. It's kind of like your PIN code for your bank account. It lets you into your system. Both the student and one parent need to sign up for a FSA ID. And if you have multiple students in school, the parent keeps their same ID for the multiple students. So you maintain your ID throughout your college years with your kids. But each one of your kids has a different FSA ID. So that ID can be used to check your FAFSA status, verifying correct information. It also, if you happen to be applying for more than 10 schools, and you can only list 10 on the FAFSA, after the initial processing, you can go back in and change and add more schools and have it reprocessed so the additional schools can get your financial information and consider you for financial aid. You can change your home email addresses and phone numbers. And it can only be generated with a valid email address. So we really encourage you to do this step now so that you're ready to apply for FAFSA when it's time. And again, we have those FAFSA nights coming up, one at Placer, and there's ongoing assistance available at Sierra College, available to just sit down with you and fill out your FAFSA if you need assistance. So Cal Grant Awards, we want to make sure that you know that there is a timeline that you have to do your FAFSA in order to be considered for your Cal Grant. You can obviously do it starting October 1st, but you can do it no later than March 2nd if you want to be considered for a Cal Grant. You also need to list at least one California school to be considered for Cal Grant because it is a California award. There's no need to submit a GPA verification. That's part of what they need to award you a Cal Grant, but our district automatically submits all of our students' GPAs for consideration for Cal Grant, unless we have been told otherwise. That we have an opt-out form on our website for students or parents who do not want their GPAs submitted to Cal Grant, but otherwise, if you haven't filled that out, we will automatically send in the students' GPAs so that they will be considered for Cal Grant awards. And then after you have submitted your FAFSA, we encourage you to open up a Web Grants for Students account. And this is like your portal for financial aid. Just like it's important to open up a portal for each of the colleges that you are applying to so you can have active communication with them, this is your California portal for financial aid. You can go onto this Web Grants account, you can look at your Cal Grant awards, you can also look at middle class scholarship awards, and you have to go on there to accept your award. So it's important to set that account up. Scholarships are available, like I said before, from the colleges where your student will attend, and you should check their financial aid websites for all those potential colleges to see what is available and for more information. There's also national scholarships that are open to all, and some helpful search engines are on our website, like Big Future and FastWeb. Each year, our local community, though, supports our graduates with about $120,000 of local scholarships. These are listed on our counseling webpage. The site is shared by our whole district and is updated regularly. Right now, there are not very many on the list, and more will be added as time goes by. The biggest months for local scholarships are January through April. We encourage you right now to be checking about every couple of weeks, but as the year goes through, you want to check it more regularly, and in the new year, January, February, really check weekly. We want to encourage that all students should apply for local scholarships. There's a scholarship for everyone. There's scholarships for kids going to trade technical schools, 2-year community college, 4-year schools. There's scholarships for 4.0 students as well as 2.0 students and everything in between. We really want to encourage everyone to put their name in the hat for a scholarship, because that's the only way that you can earn one. And our community is so generous, and they want to support the senior class. We really encourage everyone to apply. So frequently asked questions about financial aid. If my parents are divorced, whose income do I report? You report the income of the parent who you stayed with most during the year. If that parent is remarried, you must also report the income of their spouse. If parents are divorced, didn't switch. Can I claim independent status on my FAFSA to increase my financial aid award? No, you are dependent student unless you are married, have a child, homeless, an emancipated youth, a ward of the court, or a foster youth. And lastly, my parents make too much money. Do I really need to fill out a FAFSA? Yes, colleges use this information on the FAFSA to award institutional scholarships based on merit rather than financial need. So we really encourage everybody to do two things: fill out a FAFSA and a scholarship application. Next, I'd like to introduce Terry Barker, the famous Terry Barker, to cover the important topics for the rest of the senior year.
I'm the sign that we're getting close to the end. So, you get the letters, all those great acceptance letters, around March, for many of them, and you think, we're done. Nope. Come on now. Really? There we go. All right. The steps following your application submission. Stay vigilant through graduation. Don't slack, seniors. Senioritis is a real thing. Parents, look out for it. All right? It really can cause problems, especially towards the end. A lot of times seniors think that, gosh, once that acceptance letter has come, I can kick back and relax. This next process is really important. We're not finished once that statement of intent is submitted around May 1st. This is the part that I liken to airlines and when they're booking flights. The airlines, as we all know, they overbook because they want to make sure that when that plane takes off, every seat is full. Colleges are exactly the same way. They overbook, okay? They send acceptance letters out to more students than they have seats for. And so what they're going to start doing is they're going to start setting deadlines and requirements. You need to make sure that you know exactly what those requirements and deadlines are, because if you miss one, they're going to drop you from the flight. So be really careful about that. Once you get that letter of acceptance, it's conditional. It's a conditional contract. And you need to make sure that you know what the conditions of that contract are and make sure that you're following them to a T. A few things that you need to know. The student aid report. What's going to be happening once you get your letter of acceptance, again somewhere around February, March, depending on the school. In April, you're going to be getting the student aid report, the SAR. You're going to be getting that from every college that your student has been accepted to. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to break down the cost of that school. It's going to tell you how much your students received from the federal government, the state government, and the institution. And it will give you an exact amount of what the tuition is going to be and the fees for that school. So as you get those letters, you save them, and you have a month, basically from April till May 1st, to decide which school, based on the offer and based on the program that your student is interested in, is the right school for your student and your family, okay? One thing that you want to make sure that you're doing as you're getting those acceptance letters, you got to make sure that you're monitoring or you're setting up student portals. Many schools will require that you set up a student portal. That's the way they communicate. They also will communicate with emails. So we always tell our students, when you're submitting that application and you're putting an email on there, make sure it's an email that you are checking regularly. I can't tell you how many times we've heard the horror stories of our students missing deadlines or missing requirements because they weren't checking their emails. It's kind of a scary thing, you guys, because again, those offers are conditional, and those offers are rescinded if you're not meeting those conditions. And if you think about it, you had several colleges that accepted you, and May 1st you selected one and you didn't meet a condition, and all of those other colleges you've said no to. Okay, so it really does put you in a bind, and we've all had students there, and we don't want that to happen to your student. So please make sure that you're monitoring portals and emails. Very rarely now do colleges communicate through snail mail. It really is computer-based now. They'll also have housing applications. There'll be deposits, some of which are non-refundable. So if there's an issue and an offer is rescinded, many times that deposit is non-refundable. So do your homework on that. Make sure that you know exactly what the conditions are, what's refundable and what's not. Final transcript submission. Many colleges, their deadline for final transcript submission is July 1st. There's going to be many opportunities for your students and you to be aware of that upcoming requirement. Those are not sent out until June after they graduate, and their graduation date has been posted on their transcripts. It takes the office about a week to a week and a half to do that. And as long as we're aware of where those final transcripts go, we will make sure that they get there by July 1st on that deadline. You'll be getting emails, your students will be getting notifications. Also, at the end of the school year, your students will receive a senior checkout sheet, and one of the questions on there is, where do your final transcripts need to be sent to? And so we get that information from you. So again, make sure that we're getting that, because a lot of times we don't know where students are going unless they tell us. Another thing that's really important, and this happens a lot, schedule changes. We need to make sure, students, that you guys are making schedule changes before the application is submitted. What happens sometimes, and colleges have caught on to this, students will pad their application. In many instances, students are self-reporting their classes and their grades, and they'll load their class up because colleges, again, they're not looking at your grades your senior year as far as part of the GPA that they use for admissions, but they are checking to see the rigor of the courses that you're taking. As long as you're maintaining those C's throughout your senior year, you should be fine. But again, you got to be careful. You don't want colleges thinking that you're padding. And sometimes we'll get students that will submit their application, and then once they've hit the submit button, they'll come in and say, hey, I think I want to get out of that AP class and maybe TA or go unscheduled for this block. The first question that we're going to ask them is, have you contacted your school about that? And in some cases, they've applied to 10 schools. And so you've got to make 10 phone calls and say, hey, I'm getting ready to make a change to my schedule. You want to make sure that you're communicating those changes. Because if you don't want the university to think that you're being deceptive. Because the first thing that they're going to do when they get your final transcript in July is they're going to compare that to what you submitted back in November or earlier in the year with your application. So if there's any discrepancies, there will be issues, and so be really careful with that. Communication is always good. If a change must be made after submission, your student needs to contact the admissions office of each school that they've applied to. I always tell my students to ask if the change will affect their admission status. Obviously, if they say yes, it will, you probably don't want to do that. I talked a little bit about the conditional acceptance and that senior grades do matter. Again, it's acceptable. The acceptance is conditional. Be sure that you know those conditions and follow them to a T. Colleges want to see a strong finish. They don't want to see that senioritis kicking in. So be careful with that. As long as students are maintaining C's or better, their admissions will not be affected. Remember, it's about the challenge and not just the GPA. All right? If a D or an F is earned in a non-required class, it most likely will not affect admissions, but it could affect financial aid. So be really careful. I've had that happen to some of my students in the past, where they've gotten a D in a class that didn't affect admissions because it wasn't a college prep required course, but it brought their GPA down below what the requirements were for the financial aid. And I had one student one year, it cost him $26,000 a year. Not good. So final transcripts are required. I talked to you guys about that. And then how to make sure that you're on top of that. Some final details. Doggedly monitor your student portal and emails. Look for student aid report in April from each school your student has been accepted to. The statement of intent, the SIR, the statement of intent to register deadline is May 1st for most schools. Be sure that you know that deadline. Applying for housing is typically a separate process. Be sure you know the college's process and deadlines for housing, and then again the non-refundable deposits. One thing that I'm always telling parents and students, you guys are going to find out that most colleges, they're large bureaucracies, and so when you are communicating with them, please make sure that you're keeping track of it. You're logging dates, times, who you spoke with, what your question was, what they answered. Again, sometimes talking with the colleges is like talking to the DMV. You might be asking the same question, but depending on the person that you talk to, you could get a different answer. And so again, just logging that is really helpful if there's a problem and you have to go advocate for yourself. The other thing, when you contact a college, make sure you're contacting the right department. Many times, like I said, there are large bureaucracies, and the financial aid department may not communicate, and in most cases they don't communicate with admissions and vice versa. So if you've got a question about financial aid, make sure you're contacting the financial aid department. Admissions, housing. Again, a lot of times they don't communicate with one another. So make sure you're talking with the right department. And with that, questions and answers. So what I'd like to do now is open it up for some general questions, and the counselors and I, the department, will be available down below the stage here if you have more questions. But I think if you have some time, about 5 minutes or so, we'll open it up for some general questions. And Ted, is it possible maybe to turn on the house lights so I can see a little bit on some of the questions? Anybody have any general questions? I know we threw a ton of information at you. Again, hopefully what we've done for you tonight is to show you that it is a process and that there are resources available to you to get help from us, and then the resources that we've linked online. So, any questions? Anybody brave enough? Yes, sir. A question about the WUI. Go ahead.
So, if the school is in the program, is it automatically done, or is there like a scholarship process? Or?
Good question. His question is, if the school participates in the WUI program, is it automatic? Is there an application? What's the process? And the answer is it's different from school to school, okay? If you go on to the link that we had there and you see the WUI schools that are participating, we suggest you go online and look up on their financial aid link, and many times they will talk about what their process is for WUI. I can give you a couple of examples. The Southern Oregon University, they participate in the WUI. All you have to do is submit your application. It shows that you're from California. You're automatically granted the WUI. You'll see it on that student aid report that you get in April. UNR, they also participate in the WUI, but they have some requirements. The GPA requirement, the SAT, the ACT requirement. I've not heard, and you guys can correct me, I've not heard of a school that actually makes you apply for the WUI. But I don't know all the schools, but most of them, no, you don't apply. Other questions? Yes, sir, in the back.
Getting the application done early, is that official? Do they review it earlier, or do they start reviewing all of it?
You know, it depends. Again, and that's the thing with colleges, you know, with over 4,000 in the country, they all kind of do things a little bit differently. You've got some colleges that do what we call rolling admissions. So they are reviewing the applications as they come in. I think we've got a school, Point Loma, that's doing interviews this week with students, and some of them are doing admissions on the spot, depending. So again, you just kind of got to do a little bit of research on the schools that you're applying to. One thing that we make sure that, you know, we get the question all the time from seniors and their parents. We'll get the calls, what should we be doing right now? What you should be doing is compiling that college list of all the colleges that you're going to be applying to. We recommend that you have that by the end of this month. And so take this time now to start doing that research so you know what their process is. Most schools, there's no advantage to applying early. You know, the CSUs, the UCs, that November 30th date, they're not going to look at any of those applications until after that date. Another question that we get a lot is SAT and ACT scores. we're putting the application in. The deadline on the application is November 30th, but you're saying we can take the SAT in December. How does the school know? On the application, it asks, are you taking the SAT or the ACT again? And it asks for the date, and then they'll wait. Please make sure that you're submitting all scores. The old myth, the old way that colleges used to do their acceptance, it's changed. College admissions has changed a lot from when we were applying and trying to get in. A lot of those old ways no longer apply. You know, it used to be, gosh, I don't want to show them my scores. I don't want to send them my scores before I even know what they are, because what if they're bad? They don't do that any longer. And the idea of super scoring, you can see how that's changed. It's actually to your advantage to take the SAT more than once and report, because they're going to take the highest sub-test to combine it for your highest super score. All the CSUs super score, many private super score. The UCs do not. They take your highest sitting, but they could care less about if you had a really low score, because they know that testing's a process, and they know that you could have had the flu the night before and felt horrible when you went and took that test. So the UCs, and we just got back this week from the UC Conference for Counselors, and we heard every single director of admissions from all 9 schools say, we are not looking for reasons to say no to your kids. We're looking for reasons to say yes. Okay, so they're coming from it from a positive point of view instead of the negative. So the more transparent you can be, the more open you can be, it's to your advantage. We also get a lot of questions about AP scores. You know, should I be reporting AP scores? Absolutely. Okay, again, the more transparent you can be, the better off you are. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for transparency. Yes, sir. Yes. Exactly. And exactly. And they know that that's a process. And so that's the thing, it drives parents nuts. And so just so you know, I'm a parent of 2 seniors myself. It drives me just as nuts. It kind of seems backwards, okay? But in a way, it makes sense. And here's something that I say all the time, and parents hate me and students love me, because I tell students and I'll tell parents, I don't care if the school that they're applying to is $1 million a year, and it has their program, and it's the school they want to go to. Apply. Because you have no idea how much it's going to cost until April. And you don't know what they're going to offer you for merit, especially really strong students, high GPAs, a lot of rigor in their schedule, high test scores. A lot of times those schools, they know, those private schools, those expensive private schools, they know that they have to compete for your student. And they know that those students are likely going to go to a UC, because this UC system take the top 9% of California students. So those private schools know that they have to compete against the UCs. And so what are they going to do? They're going to throw money at you, okay, to bring the cost down to UC cost. They're not going to throw money at you if you haven't filled out your FAFSA, because that's where they're looking first. They have to see what other aid is going your way, okay? And if not enough is going your way and they want to compete for you, chances are you're going to get more money in merit scholarship. That's what Mrs. Montgomery was talking about when she's talking about the sticker price. You're going to have a month to really look through and make some decisions. You'll have a month between April and May. May 1st is the deadline to get that letter of intent in. And so I know it seems backwards. The process, it's in stages, okay? And so right now we're focused on testing, applications, okay, and getting that FAFSA filled out. That's what we're doing now. And then what's going to start happening around December, January, you're going to be sitting going, okay, wait a minute, what should I be doing now? That's when you're doing financial aid. That's when you're doing all that homework, you're applying for the scholarships. That's when that stuff kicks in, okay? They don't want you to have to do it all at once, so they kind of spread it out throughout the year. It's kind of like that really good teacher that chunks the project up. Instead of saying, hey, here, tackle this, we're going to give it to you in chunks. Yes, sir.
So I'm a parent of 2 different children 2 years in a row. So I already have an FSA ID.
Mm-hmm.
Do the students have to have a separate FSA ID?
They do. They do. So, yeah, you'll need to create one with them. I actually got mine going for this year, and I just talked to my daughter tonight and said, I need you to come see me tomorrow when you're not busy so we can get your FSA ID. So, yes.
Once you hear back from the private colleges on what merit they're willing to offer, do you have room to negotiate?
Why not? So, typically what I've told parents and students to do, especially for those of you that, you've got a college that you're really looking at, why not, as a bargaining chip, say, hey, listen, if it's the University of Portland, you're my number one, I want to go, but Point Loma is offering me this, and it's actually more affordable for me to choose Point Loma. They have my program, same program. Can you help me out? And sometimes what will happen, they can find funds, especially if they've offered funds to other students and they're not attending. They've chosen another school. So, again, I think if you open up the lines of communication and you do have, I think, some ability to bargain a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
So Delaware offers classes at Sierra College that you get to credit.
Yes.
How do you have to submit your grades from Sierra College and your grades from Delaware?
Great question. Many of you know we offer dual enrollment courses. Dual enrollment, they're basically they're dual enrollment classes. Your child is getting credit from Del Oro High School. I'll give you an example. U.S. History. They're getting U.S. History graduation college prep credit from Del Oro High School. It goes on their transcript. But they're also getting History 17B credit from Sierra College. And so what will happen as your student is filling out their college application, it'll ask, have you taken any college courses? And then you will answer yes. And then it's going to ask from what college. And you'll put in Sierra College. And then it'll ask what class. It'll be 17B. Now, that's for like your CSU, UC state applications. Common App, some private school applications, they're going to want a copy of, or an official copy of those Sierra College transcripts uploaded. So for those of you who are going to be applying to private schools using the Common App, please make sure, go ahead and do it now. Seniors that have had a dual enrollment class, or you're currently in one now, because on the transcript it'll say in progress. Go on to your MySierra account. You all have one if you're taking a dual enrollment class. Go on to your MySierra account and order an official copy of your transcripts, and then bring them to your counselor. And then when we fill out our portion of your Common App, we'll upload that transcript. Good question. Yeah.
Also, all those step-by-step directions are detailed out in our college application tips sheet that's related to this presentation, and it's pretty detailed about entering colleges and college classes on your college app.
The other thing that I want to mention, and I'll get to you, the other thing that I want to mention, those college application workshops that we mentioned are really key. Please make sure that your students are using that resource. The entire department, we all go over to the library. There's a room in the library, and all of us are there, and we'll sit down with the kids. We really, please do not hit the submit on the CSU or the UC application without us checking it first. Really key. We had some students last year not check with us first. They hit the submit button, and in about March, they were running in to the office panicked because CSU said they didn't meet the A through G requirements, and they did. They just reported it incorrectly. And so again, on that college tip sheet, it tells you how to do it properly, but it's a little bit confusing, so we still recommend, even if you think you got it all right, come in and just let us go over it. Yes?
On the Sierra College transcript. We went in last night and we're looking at that just last night, and if you get a PDF. Is it the PDF that you want for that, or does it have to be a?
It needs to be an official, it needs to be a hard copy official one.
They said the PDF is official if it hasn't been opened. It's kind of weird.
That is kind of weird. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like gray area when it comes to anything related to college applications. And so I will always tell you, get me an official copy in the envelope. And then that way we don't have any issues. Just one, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Same goes for Shasta College.
Yeah, any transcripts where your student is taking classes. Now, the only when I say any transcript, the only time you wouldn't have to is if you've got a student who's a transfer that started out at a different high school and came to Del Oro. We put all of their coursework from the other high school on our transcript, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. But any type of, if they took an online course through a different school that's not on our transcript, if they took, an outside college class, because I've got kids who have taken classes from American River or Consumnes or Butte, and yeah, we need those, because especially on the Common App, okay? You guys were awesome. More questions? Hopefully you're leaving tonight feeling a little bit better, and if you're still freaking out a little bit, know that we're here to support you and your kids, okay? Thanks so much for coming tonight. We appreciate your time.